Recording. So Tanner, maybe I gave a little bit of a background, but maybe you want to give a little bit about your playing and into your coaching career?
hmm Yeah, so I'm Tanner Smith. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I graduated high school in 2008. Ended up playing at Clemson in the ACC. Was part of 3 NCAA tournament teams. We were top 10 in the country a couple years, and it was just a great experience for me. I had the chance to play a couple years professionally, 1 year in the Netherlands and then 1 year in Germany. I came home to help take care of my father. He had had 2 leg amputations in 2 years. So I came home that summer and had a chance to work with Malik Beasley that summer while I was working out to stay ready to play the next year. But I had a chance to work with him every day and just kind of really fell in love with coaching and helping other guys get places in their career. And I had the chance to kind of get into that business, and everybody told me, the sooner I get into it, the better if I wanted to be a head coach. And so I had a chance to get into it at Mississippi State for a year, then went to UNC Charlotte for 3 years, went back to Mississippi State last year, and then or 2 years ago, and then last year I was here at Kennesaw State back in Atlanta, Georgia. So it's basketball's taken me to places I never imagined I'd be, and just very, very grateful to the people that have helped me along the way.
That's great, Tanner. I love the gratitude, and that's one thing I commend you for is just your humility. I mean, when we were talking before, definitely you don't seem like you don't have the attitude of the guy that's a 1,000-point scorer. You're definitely a humble guy, so I respect that about you for sure. Tell us a little bit about what you look for when you're out on the recruiting trail. So, because what was your role? Were you a Dobo or
Yeah, I was director of basketball operations.
So you weren't on the floor, so now you're able to be
Charlotte.
on the floor. What do you look for when you're recruiting players?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think there's a lot of things that you look for as a coach, and it's the same thing that people told me, when I was making the jump from being a college player to a professional player. Scouts, recruiters, like, part of us is coming to see how good you are, but the major part of us is coming to see a lot of the intangibles. I can look at a stat sheet and see, you had 20 points, you had 10 rebounds, you had 5 assists. Like, that's easy. Like, I can get on Twitter and find that. What I'm trying to see is, how do you interact with your coaches? How do you interact with your teammates? What do you do when your team goes on a run? What do you do when the other team goes on a run? What do you bring to the game other than the stuff that shows up on the stat sheet? Do you care about winning? Does it bother you when you lose? I think there's a lot of things that go into evaluating a player that's more than just like, is he talented enough? And I think the talent question is always the first thing, right? It's the first thing people say, like, hey man, I got a kid for he's talented. Okay, man, that's great. Like, there's a lot of talented players across the country. But the thing that I'm most interested in, the thing that our staff in general is most interested in, is how can you be a positive impact for our program, not just on the floor. We can teach you different things of, how to play in our system, how to play off a ball screen, the correct way to, close out with a high hand. We can teach you all that stuff. The thing we want to know is when we correct you on how to close out with a high hand or how to shoot correctly, or, man, you made the wrong read that time. Like, how are you going to respond to us coaching you? How are you going to respond in a game? Like, if you're at Cameron Indoor Stadium or you're in an NCAA tournament game and a team goes on a 10-0 run in a 2-minute span, are you going to be done for the rest of the game, or are you a guy that digs their heels in and is ready to find a way to get it done? So for me, I spend a lot of time in the gyms finding players, and for me, it's not much about talent. Things they're not good at different things. Improve here, they can improve there. you a hungry player that wants to get better? Are you in the gym because you want to be in the gym, or are you in the gym because somebody's making you get in the gym? So I think there's just a lot of different layers to it, and I think good recruiters and good evaluators, they do a good job understanding the type of player that's good for their program, but also a player that, man, like what he is now isn't even close to where he can be if he's got that real hunger and development.
That's great. I think that's just good for all the people listening that are players to hear and understand is it's more than just basketball. How do you interact with your teammates? I heard you say, are you a positive impact on our program and not just on the court? How do you respond to coaching? So that's huge. And that's something that you can't underestimate is if you see a kid talk back to their coach, that's a quick way to get you crossed off. I also
it really is.
Things I watch is the bench when they
Yep.
shoot. Because especially like in a highlight video, kids make every shot in their highlight video.
I'm the
right?
same way. If the team's standing up when you're shooting it, you're probably a pretty good shooter. If no one stands up till you make the shot, yeah.
If they get too excited, it's kind of like when I made shots in college. Everybody'd go nuts, right? As the walk-on into the bench, not many minutes. So you want them to be excited, stand up like it's probably going in, but not celebrate like it's the first one you've made all season. Well, you guys, if you guys have questions that you want to ask Tanner, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you didn't add your name and where you're from, that'd be cool to know how old you guys are, where you're from. But so definitely if you guys got questions you want to ask Coach Smith, definitely drop them below. One of the things I want to make sure I really emphasize to these guys and make sure that we cover, we only got like about 3 or 4 minutes last time. I want to hear or tell these guys a little bit about Tanner's Totes and kind of the background behind your nonprofit and what you're trying to do outside of basketball.
Yeah, so when I was really young, my dad had cancer. He was sick pretty much my entire life. But when I was 12 years old, I wrote a paper called My 3 Wishes. My 3 wishes were to get a golden retriever, which I got. My second wish was to be a professional basketball player. My third wish was to help kids with cancer. And a couple years later, I started Tanner's Totes. We delivered tote bags to preteens and teens that undergo long-term treatment in the hospital. And as of a couple weeks ago, we're up to over 15,000 tote bags across the country. We're in about over 35 different states. And again, there's been a lot of people that have really taken ownership of it and allowed it to propel to a place that I never thought it would be. We've had guys like Blake Griffin donate. We've had College Game Day do a thing. We've had big articles on different newspapers and things like that. So it's allowed it to really take off. But it's just something that's really I'm very passionate about. I think it's helped me get into coaching as well, as far as helping people do things that they can't do themselves. I think is really why I'm in this thing. And for me, being around and helping guys and being in the gym or filling these tote bags, I think it's all very similar. Just trying to give back as much as I can, my time, my energy, my effort, and my love for the game. And I think as a player, and Brand, I'm sure you deal with this some too, as a coach, guys don't really care much about who you were as a player. And I think that's been really cool to see. I think that's why a lot of players at times struggle as coaches, is because you think that your game, however long ago it was, is supposed to keep. I'll tell guys about how I was a player when they ask or if they needed advice. At the end of the day, man, it's about these guys' journeys and how you can help them in their journey, because every guy's journey is going to be very different. So just as a player, I think it helps your relationship with the guys. But I think there's times that some guys that were players or good players, they rely too much on that. Like, man, when I was playing, I would have done that. Like, hey, man, it's not about you. It's about the journey that they're going through, and you can obviously help them with some of your life lessons, but it's not. You can't always bring it back to when you were a player, right? You gotta find different ways to motivate and get through. And for me, it's just been great to be around guys. You know, I've had a chance to coach NBA players already in my career, coach overseas pros, and then coach just really good guys, like guys that, you know, might have been walk-ons or might not have played a lot, but just great people. And I think it's been really fun to see just the difference in guys that you coach, and the ones that are mostly successful are the guys that really care about it and really live and breathe it.
For sure. We had a couple of questions here talking about recruiting. So Richard Stack asked, or he said, can't imagine you had a plan for pandemic. So how is Kennesaw handling recruiting for this summer? So, and
Yeah,
that's kind of like Morgan said, how are you trying to recruit with the coronavirus taking away summer opportunities for kids?
yeah. You know, I hate that this has happened for kids. Like I think it's different than anything we've ever been through. You know, a lot of times you can tell coaches or tell guys what to expect as they go through this recruiting process. This has been different than anything anybody's ever been through. You know, for us, you know, we signed actually 8 guys for this class coming in. So as we go forward, we can be a little bit more picky. But a lot of the stuff that we're doing right now is Zoom phones, checking our emails over every rock, passionate about knowing kids and just kind of making sure that we have a plethora of names that we go through and again do our research on. But again, like I hate it for you guys. It's a different situation than anybody's ever been in. It's already hard enough. It's already stressful enough that this process is. I think this can at times add more stress and more pressure to it. The advice I would give is, you know, just kind of roll with it. You know, continue to find ways to get better, whether it's running in the neighborhood or doing push-ups every night. Find ways to keep yourself in shape. I know finding gyms is difficult, you know, and people are going to understand, you know, maybe your jump shot's not as good as it was when you went into quarantine as when you came out. But, you know, is your body going to be in shape? Are you eating the right stuff? Are you watching film? You know, are you on YouTube at night looking at different highlight tapes of guys? I think it's just really important, man, to be a student of the game, find different ways to make yourself better when some of this stuff is taken away. But I also think when you come out of this, I think it'll be very telling which guys really love it and which guys don't. Because at the end of the day, if you come out of this and you're not super pumped and you're like you're not going 100 miles an hour for a long time, it's hard for me to imagine that you really love it, because I think this showed us how quickly it can be taken away from you, and to just really enjoy the process of it, to continue to get better, and that basketball is such a powerful game, and again, it can take you places you never imagined. But you know, it'll be interesting to see. But again, man, I hate it for you guys, but just continue to find ways to get better.
I think that's a great point. Is you said people might not, there's going to be people that come out of this better. And that's your options. You can get better or you can get bitter. You can
Yep.
get mad, but everybody's going through the same stuff. So I think you're right. I think that's a great point. You're not wrong on that, that there's some people that are going to be better off, and it's
Yep.
important to try to keep doing what you can do. So let's see. How does a player stand out against all the transfer options? We got him. Tanner.
You there?
Yep, I got you now. So how can a player stand out
Okay.
against all the transfers? How does a high school player get on your radar
That's
as opposed to a
that's a
transfer?
great question. The transfer portal thing has become the fad, which is wild to me. I remember in college, I had a coaching change. I had a coaching change after my sophomore year. We had been in the tournament 2 years in a row. Oliver Purnell ends up going to DePaul. So we end up losing a coach because we're a good team. And I remember not wanting to transfer because I felt like people would view me as like damaged goods. And that was in 2010. We're 10 years from there, and there's 700 names in the portal, and it feels like people put their name in the portal to get attention. The the transfer thing is very, very interesting. I'm not sure where it's going to go in the future. But a high school kid, I like high school kids. I think it's important to take high school kids. I think a high school kid can really separate themselves from a transfer with loyalty. I think there is something to be said about loyalty. I think there's something to be said about playing with the same summer team for multiple years in a row, playing in the same high school system, having a group around you that shows loyalty to a program. Because the thing that we do when we recruit high school kids is that is one of the first things we look at. How many high schools have they been to? How many AU teams have they been on? How many people are around this thing that are trying to influence it one way or the other? And I think a high school kid separates themselves and like, man, they've been in the same high school, play people, because man, whether you have a good or a bad, there's everybody can enter the transfer portal. And that's the scary part for college coaches. Is like, well, if he has a great year, he's gonna go in the portal, he's gonna go higher. Or if he has a bad year, he's gonna go in the portal and he's gonna find somewhere else. But if you're a guy that's proven that you've been loyal, that you're willing to dig your feet in and be where you are and grow where you are, I think that attracts, in my opinion, it attracts college coaches. It definitely attracts us when we're looking at high school kids. So, everything's the same. If we're looking at high school kid to high school kid, I think that makes you stand out. But I also think, when you're looking at transfer to high school kid, if you're trying to build a program the right way, there's something to be said about loyalty. So I would say that's probably the thing that makes high school kids stand out the most to me. You're not going to be able to fight like, hey, he's older than I am. Like, that's apples to oranges, right? Like, you can't compare yourself there. What you can compare though is, hey man, I've been here, I've worked my way up, I've worked my butt off. This kid's jumped here, jumped there, jumped there. I just think it's hard to get better when you've gone all these different places. You're learning a new system, you're playing for a new coach, you got different teammates, whatever it is, there's all these things that are going to be working against you. And some of it might be a little better here or there, but you're going to have all these different, things pulling at you that make it hard for you to just continue to be a good player. So I think in high school and summer ball, if you find a place you like, man, you got to make it work there. You got to work your butt off, get better, find a way, even when it's not going well, because at the end of the day, I think college coaches look at that now is your loyalty.
I think that's a great point for sure. Loyalty is huge. I mean, because there's so many kids, first sign of adversity, they jump ship. And that's something that I definitely know we look at also, is just kids and how many teams they've played for and if coaches are to blame or why they're changing. What advice do you have for do's and don'ts of writing emails? So it's asking about NCSA software and what are you looking for in emails, Coach Smith?
Yeah, I think, I get probably 25 to 30 emails every day. And I think what's hard, I think I remembered as a high school player too, is you think every team is looking for the same thing. And that's not necessarily true, right? Like, not every team in the country needs a point guard next year. Not every team needs a 5-man next year. So when you're sending these emails out, you're not necessarily sending it out. Don't get discouraged because you're sending it out to 350 schools. And like, there's times, man, I get on my phone and like, I know we don't need a point guard, but I get, 5'11", point guard. We don't need a point guard. So like, it kind of, to be honest, it kind of goes through my phone and I eventually just kind of delete it. But I think the biggest thing when you're doing that is to make sure that like your information is at the top. And then when you have a video, I think the importance of the length of the video. There's times, man, I'll open a thing and it's like a 12-minute video and I'm like, man, I'm not watching this for 12 minutes. I'm not. Like, I got other things to do. But if I open a video and it's like 2 minutes, because like really what you're trying to do is you're trying to pique my interest, right? Like, I'm not going to sign you off a video. Like, no one that's really good at their job is going to sign it. Like, hey, he's great off this video. I'm going to call him, offer him, and get him done. That's just not how it works. you're trying to pique my interest for 2 minutes so that I can, hey man, I need to get this kid's information. I need to find out more about him. And I think that's where you need to see it as the value of it is piquing interest. It's not, I'm sending this email to get an offer. I'm sending this email to, try to get signed. You're literally, the email that you're sending is piquing the interest of the high school coach to do more and to do more work. Like, I'm going to have to do more work after, but in the video and offer video, I'm going to do more work. I'm going to ask for more film if I want more film. I'm going to come see you myself. Like, I'm going to do more stuff to make sure you're the player that I think you are. But just information at the top, classification, high school, summer team, and then, a short, 2 to 3 minute video of, just what you think you bring to the table.
Great answer. I think I love that you said it's a peak interest, right? Some kids think they're going to send an email and the coach is going to call them right back and say, I got a scholarship for you. And it's
Right.
like, and most kids don't get scholarship offers as a senior, right? Because you're recruiting and building relationships with kids that are younger and then choosing between those kids that you've already built relationships with for who you offer, right? So it's not just, oh, I saw a kid one time summer before his senior year and he's going to get an offer.
Right.
So the pique their interest, and I think, like you said, if you're getting 25 emails, kids have to do something different, make themselves stand out and be unique.
You'll see one of vapes again.
Yep.
Right, being uncommon is key for sure. So if you guys got other questions, feel free to drop them. Let's see, I'm going to scroll back up and see if I missed any. Do you enjoy more defensive highlights or offensive highlights when watching film, and which do you rather? So offensive or defensive highlights?
Yeah, I think most people would probably just say offensive stuff. Because again, you're piquing my interest. I'll do my research on the back end, like, hey man, can he guard? Like, hey man, can you send me just a full game film? Can you send me this, send me that? But I think to pique my interest, you're gonna want to send more of the offensive stuff.
For sure. What advice do you have for maybe a grassroots coach that's trying to put together a schedule? I mean, I guess a lot of that's kind of to be determined, but kind of tough to know for coaches where they should be in order to be seen by coaches right now.
Yeah, that's a hard one right now, just with so much unknown.
Yeah.
That it's again, like, I hate it for you guys because it's hard for me to answer that question openly and honestly, because I don't know where this is going to go. I think what's very different about this situation is there are no experts. Like, an expert means like you have experience. That's what expert means. It's where it comes from. But no one has experience with this, so it's hard for me to read an article and say, like, this expert says this. Well, this is the first time we're going through coronavirus. This is the first time we're going through this kind of thing. So, the biggest thing I would say is anytime you're in an event, make sure it's an event that college coaches are allowed to come to. I think sometimes, there's some guys that'll wheel and deal, and they might do a tournament during a live period, but they might not have done the paperwork to allow coaches to be in the gym. So I think that's just important. Make sure that the tournaments that you guys are going to on these live periods, now we can't go to everything, but on those live periods that you're in a tournament that coaches can be at, because that's important. Because I can only go the ones I'm allowed to be at. I can't go to a gym that I can't be in. So just making sure that you're in those tournaments, I think, is important.
Good. What class are you obviously you're probably working 2021s. Do you start building a list of your 2022s, 2023s? What grades are you kind of putting together your list from?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're working probably 21's the hardest, but I like working ahead. I think especially, at the place I'm at, I think working ahead is very important because we can't just like swoop in with an offering. So, for us, the 2021 class is most important right now, but obviously, we're building lists of 22s. I already know some 23s, especially in the area that I've seen. So just always kind of trying to work ahead to have some people in the back of your mind that you need to continue to talk to or be around or go see again. Recruiting is a 24-hour deal, and it continues every year. I think what's always interesting is like I get older and the kids they stay the same age. So it keeps me young.
For sure, man. You are young. How many shots would you make or put up? What was your routine when you were in college? Noah or Ryan wanted to know how many shots would you put up? How many makes would you make? Did you track it? How many shots were you putting up?
Yeah, I wasn't a number guy. I was in the gym until I was exhausted or until like I felt great about what I had done that day. And I think that kept me like very grounded because I think even now like if I give a number to guys like hey man go in there and make 100 shots, well like that day like their shot might not have felt great. They needed to make 200. And I think so whatever you do, I think there's two things. I think you need to do it on that day until you feel great about it. Even if you went in for 100 shots, you got to do 200. I think the second thing is whatever you do, you got to do it every day. I think anybody that's any good at anything, you got to do it every day. So you got to get in the gym when we can. You got to get in the gym every day. Like you got to shoot every day. You want to be a good shooter, you got to shoot every day. You want to be good off ball screens, you got to find a way to work on ball screens every day. Like you want to be a good defender, you got to work on defense every day. Like it's the same thing, I think, across the board with not just basketball, not sports. I think anything that anybody does in their life, they've done it every day for an extended period of time. So whatever you do, you got to do it every day. You know, I was a morning guy, so I would get up in the morning in college. I'd go to the gym in the get up at like 6 to about 7:15. I get a shower. I go to class at 8. I'd have probably 2 classes. I'd be done at 10, go eat lunch, and then I'd either get some more work in before practice or I'd get some work in after practice. But like I was a morning guy. There were some nights I'd go in there late, but like I was big on the mornings. Like that was just my thing. But I think whenever you decide to get it done, you got to get it done. And for me, like I had to do stuff every day. I wasn't a naturally talented guy. You know, I had to really work at what I did, and I knew that about myself. You know, I could tell when, you know, I had taken, you know, 4 or 5 days off from just not getting extra work in, and it would show in my game. And a lot of times, like I would realize, you know, I was playing really good at the beginning of the year because I had worked all summer. You know, I'd worked my butt off in preseason, but then all of a sudden, like December roll around, and I'd realize, like, man, it's been like a week since I've been in the gym by myself to actually get some work in. And so you just got to be very conscious about that and making sure you're getting that extra work in whenever it is, however much it is. You just got to make sure you do it every day.
Consistency is key. I love that. Have to work every day. So Richard also asked, seems like D3 through NAI are getting better and better. D1 isn't for anyone and the opportunity is so unique. What advice would you have in general about playing basketball in college anywhere?
So I actually told you this story. So I played with a guy my first year overseas, Josh Majette. You guys probably don't know him, but he played at Alabama Huntsville, which is a D2 school. But we played together my first year overseas. A few years ago, he got a 2-way deal with the Atlanta Hawks. He's currently on a 2-way deal with the Orlando Magic. There is a have to go Division One if you want to play basketball. And I think if that's your dream, you want to play professional basketball, like wherever you can go where people really care about you and see you developing into a professional basketball player is where you need to go. You know, but there is a huge misconception that like if you don't play Division One basketball, you can't be a professional basketball player. It's just not true. I know guys all around the country, all around the world that didn't play Division One basketball that are getting a paycheck for playing basketball, or that are playing basketball now for a paycheck. So wherever you decide to go, development is important. People that believe in you are important. a system that you can be successful in is really important. So don't get hung up on the level. I think the level it lulls some people to sleep sometimes. They assume that, I'm at this level, like I'm entitled now to be a pro. Like, nope, that's not true. Like, there's a million people around the world that have the same dreams as all you guys on the screen, and like that's not going to make you any different, right? Like, where you go to school doesn't make you any different. Like, how you approach every day, how you work, how you get better, like that makes you different. That's going to set you apart, because there's going to come a time where you're on the floor with a guy that might have played Division I basketball, but at the end of the day, like, it's you and him. And it doesn't, like, where he went to school doesn't matter. Like, what he did when he was there matters. And it's going to be the same where you go to school. You know, if you do go Division I, there's going to be a guy trying to prove that he should have been there. If you went Division II, you should be every day like, man, I'm going to work my butt off to show at some point that I should have been where he was. So I think you always got to have a chip on your shoulder. I think you always got to have that motivation. And if you want to do it, it doesn't matter where you are. You can do it if you put the work in and you get better every day.
Love that. Doesn't matter the level. It's all about, I think you said, the dream doesn't separate you, because everybody's got the same dream. It's what you do. It's your behaviors and your attitudes and your action that differentiates yourself.
Yep.
I think that's great. Well, hey, I just, out of respect of your time, I really appreciate you joining us, Tanner. And maybe if you would type in there into the chat, maybe your contact information.
Yeah, for sure.
That way you guys can send an email or give them a follow on Twitter or Instagram. And so, yeah, definitely appreciate you guys joining in, listening in. I appreciate you, Tanner, for sure, taking the time. So did you get that in there?
Yeah.
Let's see. Did you get it to everybody, or Jackson sent it to one
person? Oh yeah, I might have just said private. How do I? Yeah. Let me do it to everyone. Hold on.
I'm gonna unmute you guys. So if you guys want to give a shout out or say thank you, everybody is unmuted probably. There it is. Tanner Smith 5.
Yeah.
Was 5 your number at Clemson?
Is E Smith 693 at Kennesaw.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks again, Coach Smith. I really appreciate it. You guys are signing off, but I appreciate it.
Nah, anything for you guys.